Imagine you're a nobody. No one knows you, just an up-and-coming producer working really hard. You're making your loops, you're sending out loop packs, you're making beats, you're uploading them to BeatStars, YouTube, you're doing the whole keyword search. You're doing everything you can, right? You're sending beats out to rappers, trying to get that first placement that'll potentially change your life, right? And then you hear your loop on a Lil Baby track a whole month after it was released. Dude, what? I got a mic so you can hear me better. So producers getting fucked over. Now, this is not the first time this has happened, right? Unfortunately, it's kind of like the norm in hip hop right now. Even though it shouldn't be, it is. But that also is the cost of, making hip hop that accessible compared to other genres of music, but we'll get to that later. Remember when Wilo almost got screwed over because Cash Money AP tried to remake his loop and get Pop Smoke and the Babies on there? Dude, that was a classic. Look, I understand. Things are pretty complicated right now. Loop makers just find your email out of nowhere, start flooding you with loops you didn't even ask for. They got 5 people on these loops. So even if the track does get placed, no one's getting anything. No one's life is getting changed. And on top of that, they're pumping them out like they're just downloading them off a splice. I'm just saying, right? That's what it feels like. So last week I came across this post by this producer called KC Bandz, who claimed that after recently listening to Lil Baby's Frozen and inspecting the track for about 15 seconds using this tool called his ears, he realized that the loop was his. The track was released last month. Where do we even start? And look, I'm not just gonna sit here and pretend like I've had this happen to me and give you some good advice, because I haven't had this happen to me, right? Like, I don't know how I would react in this situation, but I've had some of my beats stolen by smaller artists before, and I know how that made me feel. I lost sleep over those, and they were small artists. Dude, I felt like I was getting pushed around by Joe Schmo, right? Who just took my beat out of nowhere and got 2,000 plays on his track, right? I felt disrespected. So I can't even imagine what it feels like to get your beat, or your loop, I guess, stolen by a major artist. Now, this is not the first time something like this has happened. So my immediate reaction was to assume it was some sort of miscommunication that would easily get resolved. So my theory was this. KC Bandz sent out a pack of loops to 500 producers on a list. One of them took one of his loops, messed around with it, sent it to another producer who did the drums, then sent it to an engineer who added his own touch to it. And when the time came to ask who was responsible for the beat, KC wasn't even on their radar. KC said that Ant and STG, who claimed credit for his work, blocked him when he confronted them. Hate to see it happen. To be fair, it's hard to keep track of who did what on a beat. On top of that, I can't even imagine how many loop emails these producers receive on a daily. That being said, as a more established producer, surely you need to have a better system of just, keeping in mind where certain loops end up and who you're working with, right? Like, it just sounds like a very normal thing to do. 9 times out of 10, whenever there seems to be an issue between a larger, more established producer and a way smaller one, it comes from a lack of communication. Now, if you're gonna put your ego to the side just for a little bit and use someone else's loop to make a beat, you better have that same attitude when you're dealing with the business side of things. And look, I understand it's way easier to just pretend the loop is yours and just, have things moving smoother and get a higher cut on the final track, but you're risking getting your whole reputation getting flushed down the toilet. Is it worth it? In addition to that, just imagine doing the right thing and putting other producers on. These producers can go on to do major things, and they'll forever be grateful for the opportunity you gave them. And they'll also want to work with you more because you just opened up these doors for them. So overall, it sounds like a win-win. But it wouldn't be a good video if I just blamed the one side for the whole time. So let's take a closer look at calling out other producers. Kind of like how I'm doing right now. So let's say you made a loop, right? You send it off to a big shot producer who ended up using it and getting it placed. Track comes out, you find out you didn't get your credit, you're pissed, right? Here's a list of 3 things not to do. Number 1, send them death threats. Number 2, spam them with aggressive messages. And number 3, make a public post about them before even talking to them, implying they're scammers. Now, before you start typing angry comments, I understand that sometimes, right? Sometimes you have to go for that third option, especially when they try to block you and silence you. My advice as someone who's been in a couple of situations with artists before, best thing you can do is wait before you act. Just take a deep breath. Then contact an entertainment lawyer. And if you don't have one, just ask around and do your research. Let the entertainment lawyer handle the situation for you. It's kind of like outsourcing the headache of the whole thing. So to summarize, young and up-and-coming producers, understand that you will get fucked over. It's sad and we should normalize this, but it is what it is. It's almost like the price you have to pay for this extremely fast-paced hip-hop and extremely accessible state of hip-hop. If you send out loops to 500 producers you've never spoken to, chances are they're gonna fuck you over. It just is what it is. Now, don't worry though, because 9 times out of 10, you can do something about it, right? Your hands aren't completely tied. Just, take your time and weigh out your options. To the already established producers who purposefully try to gatekeep placements, grow up. If you're worried that someone else is gonna take your place, chances are sooner or later, it's gonna happen. You just have to embrace it. If you're gonna be using other people's loops, you gotta learn how to give credit properly. Miscommunication is bad. Try to limit that as much as possible. Just because your come up didn't involve a collab doesn't mean you should actively be blocking other producers' paths. Now, if you like this video and are thinking to yourself, you know what? I could use some more content like this in my life, then you should definitely watch this video right here where we talk about why the term industry producer is soon to be extinct. That's it. See ya.